including one Encrid, who has been causing a lot of trouble for everyone, so he was demoted to squad leader for a bunch of dumbasses. Shortly after, an attack began. In an encampment, the cook is waking everyone up with the banging of his pan, which makes in an encampment, the cook is waking everyone up with the banging of his pan, which makes most of the soldiers rise from their beds, including one Encrid, who has been causing a lot of trouble for everyone, so he was demoted to squad leader for a bunch of dumbasses. Shortly after, an attack begins, and even if Encrid does not have any special abilities, he got here with his endless training, and this is why now he is able to put up a fight on the battlefield. Even if he can down one or two men, eventually he is put to the ground, as he holds no talents, and he knows that his dream is out of his reach for someone so untalented. Tons of people die around him as he tries to grab his sword, which makes him recoil. He thought that even if everyone around him mocked him for trying to achieve his dream, as long as he had his blade, he could manage somehow. Now though, the dream of becoming a knight is removed from his mind, as he can only think about his imminent death. Even this was pathetic, so that means the people who were praying for his downfall got their wish. As his mind drifts to the abyss, he sees a blue flame standing in front of him, and in a few moments he awakes again, in the same bed that he did today. He thinks that this was a dream, but when the soldier next to him says the exact same thing he did in the dream, he wonders if it truly was just that, and a sense of déjà vu envelops him. He has no choice but to go back to the battlefield, where the same fate meets him again and again. The fourth time this happens, he starts questioning everything, as he can still feel the enemy's piercing sword in his neck. It felt hot, and the pain was unimaginable. He observes the battle closely, and comes to the realization that this day keeps on repeating. But now he knows what will happen to him, and he refuses to give up. The enemy comes at him with a perfect stab, in positioning and everything. This is the 17th time he sees his own death coming straight for him, and he cannot do anything about it like he hoped before. If only he trained in the sword better, put more effort into it, and worked a little bit harder. Perhaps he wouldn't have to suffer and die like this if he did. As he lays in the world between life and death, the blue flame appears again, this time captured in a lamp, and someone on a boat asks if he really thinks that. He should just try to struggle and feel it properly, and then he should give up. He should fully feel the despair of an immovable object in front of him. Encrid becomes enraged as he hears this, and determination fills his eyes. He is already awake when the cook wakes them up, and he immediately tells the guy next to him, Rem, that he has a bug in his boots. When he looks, he actually finds it, and after crushing it, he asks if he put it in as a sort of prank or something. Encrid explains that he saw it crawl in his boot earlier. This is his 18th time seeing that bug, making him wonder, how many more times will he see it before this nightmare ends? Since he was young, he chose to wield the sword and learned swordsmanship from a returned mercenary that came to his village. The first spark of his dream came from him, as he congratulated him for being so good, to the point where he fully believed that he could become a knight. That's when Encrid began to dream. Someone like him, a true knight. The knights are people who can slay thousands on their own and change the flow of battle in an instant. They are incredible heroes that everyone respects. Like any child, he thought that he could become the knight who can finish a war, the knight of the end, which was the protagonist of a song he heard from a wandering minstrel. That is when he decided that he wanted to be the main character too, and leave the village in order to become a knight. However, people started to laugh at him as soon as he left the village to pursue his dream, as he joined a mercenary corps, and they were all making fun of how he ran away from a stray dog because it scared him. This way, he learned that his talent is really nothing special, but it was too early for him to give up, so he trained constantly, as hard work is something that never betrays you. Even if he had no talent, Encrid believed that with time and lots of effort, even in the most harsh places, he could overcome every limit he had, and thus, he gained a lot of experience. He also gained the strength and endurance to be acknowledged by people around him. That is when hope returned to him, and it returned in full swing. Unfortunately for him, that strong hope was shattered in a moment by a child. There was a 12-year-old boy who requested a duel. He was from the village he was currently resting in. Even with his age and the fact that he started learning how to wield the sword only 6 months ago, he defeated the idiot who spent almost his entire life learning the sword, to the point where his calluses developed calluses. Despair started to befall him. Was his work all in vain? Is there really no way out of being untalented? Encrid truly wanted to be a knight, and even if everyone laughed at him for it, saying that it was a hopeless venture, he refused to give up. He spent a lot less time eating and sleeping and started to swing and swing until the sun started to rise and he was completely out of stamina. Even if he hit the tree with tons of attacks, all he could get out of it was a couple of cuts. That's when he thought that even if he could not become his dream, he could at least become an experienced soldier. He screamed out at the unfairness of the world and continued to swing, as this was all he could do. 3 years later, in the present, he is in the Cyprus division, with the 4 companies, the 4 platoons, and below that, the 4 squads. Encrid became the squad commander of a second-rate squad, the best position he could achieve after his manic training. Still, it's much better than being a mercenary, as he is a soldier of the kingdom after all. Encrid walks up to one of his squad members named Jackson and tells him to do his morning duty for him, as he has to do something. Jackson looks at him for a bit and says that he will have to repay him next time. Rem can't believe that he dared to look at someone of a higher position than him in that way. That guy is going to lose his head one day. Encrid doesn't care about that, as he wants to learn the heart of the beast again. Rem is quite surprised by this, but asks why he wants to do it again. He thought that he gave up on trying to learn it. Shortly after this, the Nolilia versus Aspen close combat battle began once again, and he died like before. Encrid was tired of reliving the same day over and over, but he used this time to learn the heart of the beast from Rem each time he came back. Even so, he still cannot see the tip of the sword that kills him, and he hopes that today will be the last day where he has to go through this. As the soldiers scream out and engage in fighting, Encrid notes that this is the 21st time on this same battlefield, and by now, he has completely memorized the situation. First, he dodges the spear that comes from behind. Next, there is a guy who will attack him from behind, and after that, a squad member by the name of Vel will die. However, this time, Encrid protects him from the arrow and from the rampaging soldier that is coming to kill him. His plan finally worked. As before, even if he blocked the arrow, he would still die. Today is the first time he has survived. What is left now is to kill the bastard who will stab him in the neck and whom he meets even if he tries desperately not to. This bastard has stabbed him in the same spot 20 times, but this time it will be different. He will see his blade. He will survive. Rem told him that since he always closes his eyes when something dangerous comes his way, he is left vulnerable, and to prove his point, he aimed an axe at his neck. He told him that he needed to be brave and not easily agitated. He has to become a bastard who does not know about death, like a beast who is fighting with everything it has for survival. That is the heart of the beast. Encrid wonders if he is afraid of death, but he has felt it too many times for that to be true. Death is his friend, as it makes him stronger. For the first time, he manages to dodge his impending doom, and his heart starts to beat out of his chest. He is extremely happy with this, and tries to retaliate, but the expert swordsman in front of him uses a skillful technique and stabs him in the neck once again, ending his life. The boatman greets him again, and says that on this day, he will only feel pain and despair, so he should give up and get on the boat. He should acknowledge himself as weak and be at ease in the afterlife. Unfortunately for him, the boatman has picked the wrong person to challenge, as Encrid refuses to go with him and gives up as he finally sees the tip of the sword he thought impossible to see. Even if it takes him 100 days, he will get out of this loop. Eventually, Encrid arrives at the 33rd time he is on the battlefield, and now he can clearly see the first attack that ended his life so many times. But even if he manages to dodge it, he cannot dodge the next one, as his enemy is way too fast. So he falls to the ground, and another death is counted. In his time as a mercenary, he took up a few quests for monster subjugation. It's not like he really wanted to, but he just came to a random village where he was asked to help. The reason he decided to help them was because of his dream, as protecting the weak is what a knight does after all. His reward for doing all of that work was a charm, something extremely cheap for how much he risked his life. But the village elder told him that this would grant what he was desperately wishing for. So Encrid wonders now if this is why this day keeps on repeating, just so that he can become a knight. He isn't dead yet, and tries to get up, but the soldier notices and says that he will show him some mercy, since he must be in a lot of pain. Encrid knows that this is just a facade, as this bastard is just a monster who enjoys stabbing people. He wakes up in his bed once again and tells Rem that he put a bug in his boot, which he is very mad about, as he didn't expect a squad leader to be so annoying. Encrid tells him to stop talking and come outside, as he wants to learn the heart of the beast again. When they go and do that, Encrid is able to accurately dodge Rem's incoming attacks, which surprised him, as he didn't expect the skin of his heart to get so thick. Encrid says that he just trained, but Rem notes that this technique takes time to learn. There is no way that his family technique could be taught to someone else so easily, but he does not know that Encrid has gone through hell and back with it, and the sensation of impending death he felt each time made him much more proficient in it. He tells him that he probably got it by chance, but he wants to spar now, which Rem is pleasantly surprised by and accepts. Even if he masters the heart of the beast, he will just get killed because he cannot land a single strike against that bastard. He continues to dodge Rem's incoming attacks because he doesn't possess any good attack techniques. He only knows one, which is the Valen mercenary sword technique. It's quite anomalous, and it was made by someone named Valen. As the name implies, it's a technique that some speak ill of, and others call it a petty trick. Even so, he has something else he wishes to try. He tries to imitate the stab of his murderer, and he does so pretty well, but Rem can easily throw his sword away with sheer force. Still, for a moment he imitated that stab perfectly. Since he died to it more than a few times, his body remembers it well. Rem says that among what he showed him in this spar, that stab was the most decent, but he should put more impact into it. He tries to explain it the best he can, but he isn't really that smart. So he just says that he shouldn't doubt his attack and put everything into it, to the point where he can already see the enemy in front of him dead. That way, he shouldn't lose grip on his sword. Encrid thinks that this was a horrid explanation, but he got it. The difference between his stab and that bastard is that he is not confident in his blade. He must do like he does every time he kills him, stab with the intent to kill the person in front of him. He tries to do it again but fails, resulting in his death. Even if he has to do it a step at a time or even a quarter of a step, he will advance no matter what. The days continue to pass as he trains and dies. The 11th day, the 123rd day, but finally, on the 124th day, he lets out a strike that Rem has no choice but to dodge, which he calls him crazy for, as he puts so much force into that attack that blood is coming out, and his smile really isn't helping his image. But Encrid couldn't care less, as he has finally mastered that bastard stab technique. The first time he tried this technique, he managed to graze the soldier's head, but even if he failed and was stabbed again, he did not blink and didn't even let go of his sword. The soldier said his usual line, that this is mercy, but Encrid promised him that tomorrow he was going to die. This made the soldier smile, as the dead have no tomorrow, but he does not know. This time Encrid crushes the bug before it goes into Rem's boot and tells him to take his guard duty, making Rem wonder when he became so pushy. This marks the 125th day of the loop. He tells someone called Big Eyes to get him some shin armor, a shield, and a dagger, as he will pay for them later. Big Eyes reluctantly accepts, but he tells him that he is doing it only because he trusts him. Rem comes from behind and notes that the squad commander is becoming a little pushy, but Jackson says that they always push their tasks to him, so this is just revenge from his side. Rem doesn't know what to say, but he's acting weird, like he is extremely tense. As Encrid trains, he thinks that every time he dies, he feels a lot of pain, and his mind starts to wander. What if he never wins, even after tens of thousands of tries? What if he can find another way to escape and survive? Would he wake up the next day or still end up in this loop? He is much stronger than before. Isn't that worth something? Shouldn't he be content with what he has? But he steels himself once again. Giving up was never an option. He has to surpass the wall put in front of him no matter what. By learning how to stab efficiently, he proves that he won't abandon the blessing that he was given. With his mind more made up than ever before, he equips all of the equipment he needs and thinks about only moving forward. He and his squad join the ongoing battle, which Encrid is prepared for. He is a person with no skills, but he managed to survive all of this because of three things: preparation, luck, and maintaining a cool head. On the 46th day, his left shoulder was completely shattered by a spiked mace, and on the 47th day, he rolled to dodge the mace, but someone crushed his head instead. With this information, he is able to kill the mace guy with a single slash. But on the 71st day, when he first did this, a soldier cut his foot off, so he couldn't do anything to the stabbing soldier. This is why he got the shin armor, and is now easily able to take that soldier out. On the 89th day, his head was split completely open because somebody threw an axe at his head. If he let him live now, he will interrupt his main fight. So he trained in throwing weapons throughout the day, meaning that it's not difficult for him to counterattack. After all of that, Vel always ends up behind him, and a sharpshooter called the Claw of the Hawk, which he doesn't have the time to take out, but he can protect Vel. And after this comes the wall, which he meets with determination. The stabbing soldier goes for his shield first, which he breaks, letting Encrid dash away. As dodging and stabbing won't give him any chances of winning, strategies like this serve him much better. This guy is just a regular soldier, but he is strong, at the level of a prodigy almost. But there is one thing he lacks: real fighting experience. Encrid uses this to his advantage and headbutts him before using the Valen mercenary technique. He gathers some dirt in front of his boot and throws it in the eyes of the stabber, allowing him to finally have the upper hand. But the stabber becomes mad at this provocation and goes for Encrid's neck, who knows that he had to dodge and does so expertly. This makes the both of them stand behind each other, and as the stabber goes for another attack, Encrid now knows everything about that stab, so he hits his sword in such a way that it completely shatters. At the same time, the Claw of the Hawk aims and shoots another arrow. Encrid now has the complete advantage and prepares to stab the bastard with his own technique, but that arrow moves straight for him. That's when one of Rem's axes flies through the air and breaks it, just in time for Encrid to finish his revenge. Rem wishes to go for that bastard, but he doesn't have enough time. As the battle rages on, Encrid enjoys his victory, and as the stabber crouches down while bleeding out, Encrid raises his sword in the air, as this is mercy. With that, he cuts his head off, and finally breaks through the wall that was put in front of him. Suddenly, he is attacked by a strange being and sent flying, which the others identify as a frog. The frog person notes that he spent quite a bit to raise this one, but to think that he would be defeated by a weakling, well, it doesn't really matter, as he will die now. Before he can strike Encrid one last time, Rem's in clutch and starts fighting the frog person with everything he has, both of them emanating the spirit of a warrior. At the same time, one random soldier tries to kill the incapacitated Encrid. Jackson quickly decapitates him. Rem and the frog back away from each other. Says that if he wishes to kill the squad commander, he has to go through him first. The frog person is surprised that he isn't the commander, and Rem thinks that the frog people are a warrior race, born to be on the battlefield. He is either going to have to burn him with magic or pierce his heart. The frog person doesn't understand why someone like the man in front of him on this battlefield. To kill him, he will have to put his life on the line, which he thinks is worth it, so he just backs away. As Jackson escorts Encrid, the others help him along the way by killing any attackers, and they eventually get the order to retreat, which Encrid hears, meaning that finally, he has survived this day. He goes back to the land between the living and the dead, with the boatman telling him that he managed to survive, but this is all he can do because he will not be able to go through the walls that will keep appearing in front of him. His fate is filled with despair, so he should just give up now. Encrid slowly gets up and says that for him, walls do not exist to stop him. They exist to be overcome. The boatman likes his attitude, and so he will wait for the moment when those eyes filled with hope will completely lose their light. With that, Encrid awakens in the infirmary tent, and Rem, who is beside him, says that he has been sleeping for 2 days. He was actually the one who saved him from that frog bastard, so he better be thankful. Encrid didn't know that he was hit by a frog. It's amazing that he managed to live. Rem explains that his bones are not broken, but his head was shaken up pretty badly, so he does remember that they are best friends, right? Encrid notes that he never said they are friends, calling him a noble hunter, which makes Rem shut him up, as he can't just blurt out people's secrets without a thought like that when he has nothing to do with it. Anyway, Encrid is glad that he was able to get out of that loop alive after so many days. Later, Big Eyes, real name Crace, comes to the infirmary, as he wants payment threefold, as he also paid for getting him in here. Encrid wondered why he was in the infirmary when soldiers like him would be left to tend to themselves. To lower the price, Encrid asks where he was when the battle started, as he didn't see him anywhere. Crace says that he will give him a special discount if he shuts up, which he accepts. Much later, Jackson comes around and hands him some medicine that he will apply twice a day, in the morning and evening, but he shouldn't ask how he got it. Encrid notices that this is the ointment he always uses, which is surprising since Jackson doesn't share his personal items at all. Around the same time, Auden also comes and starts praying for him, but Encrid says that he's not dead, so he can leave. As night falls, Encrid wonders why they are all taking shifts looking after him, as they are probably busy, as they usually are. Perhaps they are worried about him. That's when Ragna comes around, and is surprised to see him in the infirmary before leaving. Encrid notes that Ragna is exempt from this, as that guy wouldn't care if the world ended tomorrow. Besides him, there are 2 other soldiers in the infirmary, a platoon commander from another company who he used to pick fights with, and one soldier that he doesn't know the name of who is always staring at a wall. As he thinks about him, a person with long ears and royal armor comes around, asking for the commander of the 444th Squad, which is Encrid. The platoon commander notices that she is a fairy, and she asks which group he is with as a result. He explains that he's Vengeance, the commander of the 3rd platoon in the 2nd company. She then asks if his company taught him to state his race when he meets a superior, which he apologizes for. Encrid thinks that this must be the new commander of the 4th company, and he also introduces himself as a result. She has heard that he is leading his difficult squad quite well, so she looks forward to his future contributions. With that, she just walks away, confusing Encrid. But she suddenly stops and asks the young soldier who is in the infirmary what his name is. It takes him a while to say it, as he comes up with the name of Krang, but even Encrid notices that he just made it up. His attitude in front of a superior is bad too. Is he a noble of some sort? The woman just looks at him and leaves. Late at night, Encrid feels almost no pain, and he can put some strength into his body, meaning that he should resume training. Vengeance asks where he is going, and when he reveals that he is going to the training area, Vengeance calls him an idiot, as he shouldn't act tough when he is the lowest-ranking soldier there is. Encrid eventually finds a quiet spot and recalls the past battle, as it was one of the few useful methods he spent tons of cash on in order to learn. First, he thinks about what would have happened if his attack had failed. Perhaps it's not a good idea to put all of his strength into one attack, but if that attack fails, he dies anyway. If Rem's attacks were lethal, after he stabbed his sword with all of his might. What would be the next move? Suddenly, someone interrupts his meditation and notes that he's working hard, that someone is Krang, who doesn't know what he's doing. But his hands kept twitching in the infirmary, and now he's just spacing out here? Encrid explains that he was doing the first thing to test his grip, and now he's replicating the battle. Crank asks why he's doing that, and Encrid puts it quite well, so that he doesn't get butchered on the battlefield. Krang then asks if he wants to become something by preserving his life like this. Encrid knows that what he wishes to become is his dream, but when he tells it to other people, they just laugh at him, a dream that he has always pursued. However, this dream is something that he will never stop pursuing, so he is proud to say that he wants to become a knight. Krang is quite surprised by this, and Encrid notes that this is the first time he sees someone not laughing at him for saying that. Krang says that he just forgot, but he suddenly remembered what he needed to do after watching him. If he becomes a knight though, he should at least remember his name. Encrid thinks that this is new, as he was never supported up until now. A wandering minstrel arrives at the camp and starts singing songs about legendary heroes, while Vengeance wants his morning rations to come already. Because of all of this, Encrid decides to take a walk, where he meets with Jackson, who asks how his injuries are doing. He says that because of the medicine he has been doing well. He's quite thankful for it. Jackson tells him to come back already if he's thankful. Later that night, Krang wishes him a good night, and he does the same, making Vengeance say that they should just marry each other if they are so close. As he drifts off to sleep, Encrid thinks that this was a day with nothing important in it. When he wakes up, the minstrel is still singing about Cyprus, and Vengeance is once again complaining about the food, just like yesterday. That's when Encrid gets it, and as he walks outside in the same spot, Jackson once again asks how his injuries are. When Encrid responds the same way, and Jackson answers the same way, his suspicions are confirmed, and a vision of the boatman comes to mind. While he was sleeping, he died without even noticing. He died like a dog, without even knowing it, but now he's even more determined to overcome this challenge. As night falls, Encrid wonders who killed him and why, as the enemy isn't able to go through their defenses so easily, meaning that an assassin did, someone who is probably among them. They know his location and how to conceal their presence. His mind jumps to the fairy, as they are a race that is known for being quiet and nimble. Is this why she came here that day? He must confirm it, as he can't throw out baseless accusations. He just needs to wait. That's when a poisoned needle stabs him in the neck from above, and he only manages to fall down as the numbness of the poison takes him. He notices that Vengeance is also poisoned, but Krang is stabbed by the assassin, and another assassin comes into the tent as the job is finished, that assassin being none other than the company leader. Encrid thinks that even if he was alert, he couldn't feel them. This will be hard to counter. Plus, he will have to face the company commander after he is done killing the commander. It's a truly hopeless situation. He didn't expect for this feeling to return so quickly, but despite all of the trials put in front of him, he came out on top, and so he will definitely find a way to get out. He pulls the sheets above Vengeance and prepares to strike because he assumed that the assassins would have infiltrated by now, but it seems that he needs to be wary of the outside. Vengeance wonders what he's doing, but notes that he must be hunting cockroaches, a fitting thing for him. Encrid didn't expect for him to care so much, which gets Vengeance mad, and at the same time, Krang comes inside, wondering if he should come back later and let them bicker. Encrid tells him to come in and looks at him while he makes his bed. Considering the assassins took him out in another way, he must be their target. But why? Just who is he? He thinks of not digging into it like his teammates usually do with most things, but since he is involved, he has the right to. He asks what he is, which Krang doesn't know how to respond to, but eventually says that it's not something he can say because it's a long story. Encrid just accepts it for what it is, but Vengeance can't believe that he just took that, as he has a feeling that this guy is not from this country, meaning that he must be a spy from another country. That has to be it. Krang gets closer to him and says that he has not and will never betray the kingdom. As he said that, Encrid felt something in his eyes, the will and aura of a knight, but he is not one, as he is powerless against the assassins, though now he has confirmed that he is hiding something that he doesn't want to tell. As night falls and they wish each other good night, Vengeance falls silent, perhaps because he is scared of Krang now. The assassins are also about to barge in soon, so he gets up and tells the others that some assassins are going to invade this tent. They better come with him if he wants to leave. The others think that he is crazy, but that's when someone asks how he noticed, and he is hit at a vital point before he can even try anything. The assassin kills all of them in seconds, and Encrid wakes up to the minstrel singing again. Since he has no way of letting the others know that the assassin is coming, he can't get them on board. At first he tries to get help from a commander, who tells him to screw off, so he tries to predict the assassin's movements, but he is killed in an instant. Next, he tries to ambush the ambusher, but he is killed without even knowing where the assassin was, as he cannot see him, though they can see his every move, As long as he cannot avoid that poison blade, he will die without being able to do a single thing. The 20th morning arrives, and Encred falls into the pits of despair but crawls right back out, as he has only died 20 times. He needs to think of how to get rid of the needle first, and a way to avoid fast attacks, so he goes to Jackson for it. While they were training, he asked Rem why he was calling Jackson a wildcat. He explained that he only attacks when he's behind someone and then runs off, which reminded him of a cat. Encred assumes that he would win against the assassins, and he can't just take him in since he has no authority to do so. But even if he could, he must pass this wall.